All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Corona Days Professional Development Group. It's me, Danette Edwards. I'm here this afternoon. Well, for me, it's afternoon. It's 3 p.m. With Mr. Daryl Arnold, and he's going to talk to us about He's going to go over a historical look at Black wealth and restoring Black wealth today. So he's going to do a walkthrough of Black wealth in America over time. He's going to talk about the barriers to building Black wealth. And then he's going to lead a spirit teaching where he's going to help elevate people to rise up from financial education and mindset changing. A little about Daryl. Daryl Arnold is a young vessel being used to help others. He's from a small place on the map called Mississippi. Daryl helps people understand their purpose and teaches financial education. This is a calling to help others like others have helped him. Daryl thrives seeing others win. And guys, you know me, I'm going to immediately turn it over to Daryl. But I'm going to ask you if you have questions or comments, drop them in the chat and we will get to them. So I'm going to remove myself, but I'm here and I'm turning it over to Daryl Arnold. Thank you for being here, sir.
What's going on, my great people? It's a pleasure to be here today. Happy Easter. Happy Sunday to everybody, each and every one of y'all. I'm very thankful for everybody that's tuning in right now. So today I just wanted to go through the history. One of my favorite parts of Black history is some of our Black wealth that we do not talk about, we don't preserve enough for us. So we can learn from the mistakes, is learn from some of the things that they did right, so we can actually overcome those barriers that they went through in today's society. So let me just share my screen, and I'm gonna go to my PowerPoint that I have for y'all guys today. All right. Okay. Everybody can see it. Everything's good.
Yes, everything's fine.
Right, so everything. All right. So this is, like I said, this is one of my favorite parts of history that really does not talk about enough. And this is the Reconstruction Era. This is the time and place that Black people will uphold a lot of power from political as well as social and everything else in between. Now, I just want to go through that. We went through a lot through this period of time, but we did a lot. We had a lot going for ourselves. So I feel like this is one of the biggest points, and that we can learn a lot from this era. And this is called the Restructuring Error. Now, this is right after the Civil War. So over 400 million African Americans were free. Now, this is what the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, what happened in this time period was pretty awesome, especially if you think about it from this standpoint. Now, we were just freed. Most of the South really didn't care for it. They still wanted to hinder us, and most of the North as well. But what really happened in this time period is like, hey, all right, we started understanding that we was free, and then we had the knowledge, all the tools that we really needed, but we made something shake once we started getting to some of the things. So the Gentrification ban was created in Sea Islands to educate the free Blacks. So the Gentrification ban was created. That was mostly people from up north. They wanted to get the supplies, and also some of the government intact was in that. And then they came down to the Sea Islands, which is in North Carolina, in that area. Then they came down to educate the free Blacks. Now, they only did this for a few years. This is the awesome thing about us in our history. Now, they educated just for a few years, and then we started doing it on ourselves. We started educating each other. All right. And we want to educate more Blacks because we just got free. We started understanding what was the demand, what was the supply in this thing. Now, we was mostly sharecroppers in that time, all right, because we didn't have anything else going, and we didn't understand things like rice and other things that really could get us over the top. But that's so beautiful about us, and this is why I love to talk about this. Secondly, we also did was we had to reunite all the families through the destruction of slavery. So what do we want to do is we wanted to go back and get everybody that we could, that we knew that we had the same name, or we knew that somebody had kidnapped us or took us to another slave master or whatnot. So we started finding each other, and we started reuniting families all through Reconstruction. Now, I just want you to know that sometimes, in this time period, we really didn't have that many resources. But the resources that they did have, they did find some of their lost people that's in that slavery. And then we started learning and understanding that we wanted to build our own. We knew that we could not stand on the government's promise or anything else, because they just gave us, like, hey, they didn't give us no food. They didn't give us land to cultivate anything like that. So we had to build our own from scratch. And this is what's so phenomenal about this. So one thing that I realize and I understand when I go back and look into this time period is that the infrastructure that they used. The infrastructure that they used was very simple, which I love, and it's something that we need to be looking at in today's society. Family. They knew that family was the most important thing to them. Nowadays, we do not have that family unity that we once had, especially in this time period. Our church was not just a basic church like it is today. No offense to anybody, but I know some churches do big and beyond things. But the church that they had in that time period, it was a stomping ground to cultivate some ideas of, like, hey, this is what we need to have. These are some things that we need to get together to do, and things of that nature. Same thing that we could be doing today with all the tools and the technology that we have. Education was very, very important to them, especially after getting out of slavery. They're like, hey, we got to get this education done. With the prior, these are some of the things that they had to go through. It was outside, all right, with education, because it was not enough schools, or it wasn't not enough teachers or what have you to actually teach them enough. But it was 50 students outside or even more, just so they can gather around and they can start educating each other about different things that they can be doing in the community or anything else, so they can start doing better. Ownership. They started owning things in this time period, in this great time period, in this great in this area. They really started wanting ownership. They wanted ownership of their house. They wanted ownership of some land.
Daryl.
They wanted some ownership of businesses because they knew that they could do it.
Daryl, can you hear me?
Yes.
Your sound is breaking up. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. It might be a connectivity issue or a sound issue, but it's breaking up.
No, let me see if the Wi-Fi. I changed to my Wi-Fi.
Thank you for being patient with us. I just want to make sure this is great information, that if there's anything that Daryl can do for his sound, that he does it before he goes forward.
Can you hear me now? I think.
Yes, that's better. Okay.
All right.
Talk, Daryl. Let me hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Say something.
Hello.
Yeah, that's better.
Hello, testing.
Much better. Okay, let me remove myself. Okay. Can you go ahead from church? Can you go back over church, please?
Okay.
Okay.
One thing that I was talking about, yeah. So when I was talking about the infrastructure that they had, was church. Back in the days, this was the time period that they just knew that they could get together and they wanted to build some of those ideas that they had. And the church was the only way that they could really do that, because they didn't have nowhere else to really congregate, if you will, to actually come up with plans to strategize what they wanted to do next. So the church back in that time period was something that was very strategic, as well as something that was very powerful in that movement. So they could really start teaching and helping people out with some of the things that they wanted to do, and actually going further with their infrastructure. So I think this is something that we can really take to what's going on in today's society. Really realize, regardless of where religion, if you're not religious or not, but just coming together for a congregational, so we can really start building and planning for the future and how we can actually help each other out. Now, education is something that's very, very important to them, especially in this time period, because they were just free. And it was free. They didn't have like I said, they didn't have no land to cultivate anything. So what they realized, they're like, hey, they needed education so they can learn how to form, because they was already knowing how to do these things, because they was doing all the work anyway. So once they learned that they was doing all the work and anything else, they started deciding that, hey, we need to start, bringing some of our kids, and we need to start having a better conglomerate about what education is and how we can educate our future and educate ourselves so we can actually have ownership. They was very big on ownership because they knew that nobody else really cared for them. So they knew, like, hey, all right, if I need some clothes or anything like that, I need to go to somebody that's in my neighborhood. All right, that's in this vicinity, because I know that if I try to go to the whites, they may price the prices up, or they may sell to me. So it's best that I'm going and have that ownership for myself and actually, help each other out. So ownership was very big. And then this is the time period that was really big into politics, especially when they started allowing us to, which I'll be going through shortly. So politics was a very, very great way that they understood. All right, if we have politics, we have people that's in office, and then we have people that's actually in office, and then we have people that's over the money. We have people that doing everything that they need. Guess what? Now we have our own towns, which they really did in this time period, because this is the start of freedmen cities, which I'll be going through later on too. So the Reconstruction Act of 1867, this is a very, very strong thing that happened, especially because we had the Black Codes in 1865. The Black Codes was by Andrew Johnson, of course, and he wanted to say that the South could deny Black people of them having power in politics. So with that being said, this allowed Blacks the right to vote and hold power in political, political power in the South. So that was big. So once we started getting get these ball rolling, guess what? The first Senate came out of Mississippi that same year, that following year, 1868. The first Senate of United States, a Black Senate, came from Mississippi. All right. And after that, then we had some in South Carolina, North Carolina, and then it just funneled all across the country. And at the time period, most of us was Republican, because at that time period, that's when we started funding. I mean, that's what was good at the time. Republican Party was just for us because we started going with that party. And with that particular thing, we had some of the things, if you know about New Orleans or Louisiana, one of the generals, he was a senator as well, and then he was a governor. That's why he's very known at the Southern University campus. All right. This is when the start of the wealth started to come for Blacks. All right. When this happened, as I stated before, that infrastructure really changed our course in actually having wealth at that particular time, because we was more sharecroppers. We had more people that had their own businesses, and we had our own towns. We had our own banks and everything else. So this time period, when we had this is when we was at our apex of ownership. All right, ownership and actually having wealth, and that we can build wealth for each other. Now, I don't want you to think that it was all sweet though, because they still had, we still had racism. There was still bombings and things of that nature being thrown down, but they did not stop. They still was being resilient, especially with this act right here, the Restructuring Act of 1867. So this was the creation of old towns. All right. These, if you look it up, all you have to do is look at, you can Google it, and it's called freedmen cities. And it's pretty much, I can't just say for certain how many that was created in that time period, but I could probably estimate it was roughly about 200 freedmen cities in America in this particular time period. So that means that we had cities of our own. We didn't have nothing else. We didn't have nobody. We defended on our own. All right, because we had the political power, as well as we had the banks and everything else that we really needed. So with that being said, why we cannot do this today is that we may be looking at it from, we may be looking at it as like, oh, we can't do this today, but we can. If our great great grandparents, or how long ever that was, if they could do it, we can do it too. All right, we have overcame so much, so we just got to keep on keeping the ball moving. All right, they still face racism as well as attacks during this time period, because they, like as I said, they was at their peak. Now, just imagine that you just been freed from a place that you was really someone's property. All right, you were someone's property. You did everything that they needed. You did everything for them, from birthing their kids, feeding their kids, and then they giving you, slops at the end of the day. But now you're free, and then just in a few years that you learned how to formulate ideas or whatever, you started having your own businesses and everything else. That is how powerful we were in this time period. And that's why I love talking about this, because this is a part of history that we don't reserve enough. All right. And we don't talk about enough, because as I said before, we can look at some of the things that they did to actually become successful, and then some of the things that they did not do to actually what we can stay away from so we can build our wealth. Now, these are, like I said, it's a lot of freedmen cities, but I want to give just some backstories of a few. All right. First and foremost, I got to go with Mount Bayou because I'm biased. I'm from Mississippi, so I got to give you the Mississippi cities, of course. So Mount Bayou. All right. This was one of the most prestigious cities in Mississippi, of course, because it was under I can't think of this guy's name, Frederick Douglass. It was under his leadership. And what they did was they created Mount Bayou. Then they had the political power that, whites could not come into that area, and they defended that. And Mount Bayou was one of the prestigious cities in that time period. David Bend, Mississippi. This is one of the most particular ones that I was kind of fond of. I just realized about this one. Now, what happened with David Bend was it was this slave owner named David Bend, and he had a great deal of land, and he pretty much said he had a great healthcare system for his slaves, and he had a great, he gave them food and all that, and dental care and all that. But it was one slave that was very smart and sharp, so he decided to give him ownership of a store nearby or across the street on this plantation. All right. Now, what happened was during the Civil War, he gave him a little bit more war. During the Civil War, once the Union soldiers took over David Bend, they gave the slave of this great land to David Bend, and then guess what? He created a black city, and that's just remarkable to me that under that circumstances they created that. Now, Africantown, Alabama. That was roughly 32 Africans after the last after the last slave ship. They was pretty much Africans. I think they came from Ghana or somewhere in the area, and they created a town in Alabama called Africantown. And right today, they still have that same thing going. So that's called Africa in Alabama. And last but not least, I wanted to highlight Seneca Village because now it is called Manhattan Park, but the Seneca Village people was there, and they was pretty thriving, and it was a very prestigious black community. And the government just said, hey, we're just going to build a park here and then give them nothing. And they pretty much just tore down Seneca Village. As I stated before, you can go on Google and just look at some of the freedmen cities. Like I said, it's a lot of them. And this is just how powerful we was back in them times. All right. So I just want to go before I start going to what about today. I just want to say in that time period, we had it going on, even though we didn't know what we was actually doing, or we didn't know exactly what was going to happen in the next couple of months when it comes to sharecropping. From it was cotton, then it went to rice and everything else in that time period. We didn't understand, black businesses or the business of how we did it, but we did it in just a few cents. And what really happened in the demise was that the Union soldiers and then the government just said they pulled out and came back up to the north. They pulled out all the Union all the Union soldiers and the armies that was in the South, and they just said, hey, they'll deal with it themselves, as well as the Ku Klux Klan in 1970s was born. And then all the other things that happened with the bombings and everything else. That's what really happened, and pretty much got rid of this great Reconstruction era that we really was at the peak of our conglomerate of black cities and black towns in that time period. Now, building wealth today. All right. A lot of times we think about it, but we say we get into the bag or we get into the money, but it's some things that we really don't even look at. It's some financial tools that we have that our grandparents and our great grandparents didn't have that we could be utilizing to actually build our wealth for today's sake. And first, I wanted to talk about these three things that can really help us out. First is a will. All right. What is a will? A will is a legal document that expresses a person's wishes as to how their property is to be distributed after their death and the care of any minor children. So with that being said, I want everybody to go to a lawyer or whomever and get you a will. All right. Write it down, whatever you express, however you want to do it. Because I know too many times in today's society, when Big Mama dies, somebody passes away, all right, people start, fighting over money or fighting over the property or what have you. Have you a will so you can have it in document, all right, and you can understand what's going on. Secondly, this is a trust, a fiduciary relationship in which one party, known as the trustee, gives another party, the trustee, a right to hold title to property or assets from the beneficiary. So this is something that we probably can have today as well, which is a trust. And last but not least, a life insurance. All right, what is life insurance? Life insurance pays out a sum of money either on the death of the insurance person or after a set period of time. All right, so these are some 3 key components that we can really help each other out, especially if we want to build our wealth and bring it to the next generation to the focal point. Now, most of the time when we're talking about life insurance sold to Blacks, I want to go back to how it started and how it has transformed and what it can be today. So let's get into it. At first, life insurance was sold only for burial purposes for us. So back in the day, once they gave us life insurance, it was just for, hey, all right, it's just enough money so they can pay for the casket and put them in the grave. All right. It wasn't for to leave leave behind money, anything like that. That was it. All right. Nowadays, they only tell us pretty much about 2 life insurance choices right now. Usually they only just tell us about term life and whole life. So I want to just explain to give you a little bit of background on back of both of them. Now, term life is pretty inexpensive, and it has living benefits today, which I'll be talking about what living benefits are. If you have terminal illness, that's pretty much if you get injured in a car accident or something like that, you may not be on your deathbed, but something that is just temporary. All right. Then you have permanent illness, temporary illnesses and things of that nature. So living benefits, you can actually take some of that money out to actually take care of some of those benefits that's just going on with you. Maybe, taking care of your house and or whatever the case may be. That's what living benefits are for. Now, but usually told us about the extra costs, but they also have extra costs unless you get it from a wholesaler, which I can talk about that later. Now, term, it usually goes into 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and 30 years. Now, it has no death benefit. So once it expires, then you do not get that death benefit or you're not protected for that period of time no more. So if you get a 15-year and it's $500,000 coverage, all right, once those 15 years is over, you don't have no money left over. Now, if you pass away in that time period or if you take some of that money out or whatever, okay, that's cool. But other than that, you won't have anything. Whole life is permanent coverage, but you can borrow from it. But if you borrow from it like a loan, you have to pay it back like a loan as well. Now, it can build some cash value over time, but you can never outlive it. And then it's tax-free once you take that money out, as well as that cash value side. All right. Now, these are the types of life insurances. I just went over term and whole life. Universal life is pretty much like whole life in a sense. All right, universal life, but it's gives you that cash value interest as well. Now, variable, that goes on the stock market, but it's a variable account. So anything that's variable, I want you to know that it goes like the stock market. So you don't know if you're gaining a lot of money or you don't know if you're losing a lot of money. All right, so. And last but not least, index universal life. Index universal life gives you a percentage of what the stock market may be doing, and then it has a guaranteed floor protection, so you don't have to worry about losses. All right, but then you just get the percentages of whatever that company may give you. It depends on the carrier. Get up to 10%, maybe 15%. It all depends on the carrier, and it's a great thing to look into as well. So these are the types of life insurances. All right, now. Money management. These are some things that we really need to be talking about and really be doing regardless of whatever profession that we're doing. All right. Budgeting income and expenses. All right. And you can also be doing this with your kids, especially when you're giving them allowance. All right. If you give them $100 and they want some tennis shoes, guess what? Hey, all right. If the tennis shoes cost $70, you only have $30 left. Now, and you're not going to get paid until the next week or so. I'm not going to give you no allowance until the next week or so. So how much money will you be having until that period, or whatever the case may be? These are some things that you can really teach your kids, as well as doing this for yourself. All right, budgeting your income, how much money you making now. All right, when do you get paid? All right, what are some of your bills that you have that have to be done, and then some of those expenses that you have. All right, living expenses like groceries, all that, car insurance, all that. All right. Ask for help. Do not be prideful and think that you cannot get no help or anything like that. Ask for help. Ask somebody, especially somebody like myself or somebody else. Ask for help. Do not be sitting here thinking that, oh, yeah, this is a scam or whatever. No, ask for help. All right. Get a will, get a trust, and life insurance. And last but not least, get a financial checkup, a FNA, a financial needs analysis. All right. We get a checkup on our car. We get a checkup on everything else. All right, we get a checkup on our body, but we do not give a checkup on our money situation. All right, but so we need to get that done. We need to have somebody that can sit down, talk to us, and explain to us, hey, this is how we can manage our money and manage it well, so we can actually help our kids out and help us out. All right. Now, these are the 6 steps to get into that financial freedom. First and foremost, we want to eliminate that debt management. All right. Know how much you owe, what you owe. Develop a plan to eliminate those balances, especially high interest consumers debt. So, all right. I know from experience, I know from a psychological standpoint, I know that you may feel like, hey, all right, I got some money, so I need to spend it. No, you don't have to spend all your money. You just got to know how to do it periodically. Whatever you need or whatever you want, guess what? It's going to be a sale for it. All right. Bargain shopping. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Emergency funds. Understanding your essential monthly expenses and begin to accumulate at least 3 to 6 months of cash reserves. All right. Understand your essential monthly expenses. So you know how much money you're making. All right. And know how much money all your expenses are. And then started saying, all right, this is how much I need to be saving, just so if something happens, I have at least 3 to 6 months of cash reserve. All right. Cash flow. Create a solid budget to free up those funds that can wipe out some of that debt and improve your lifestyle. All right. Because that's all about that. We want to have a lifestyle. Proper protection. All right. As I said before, identify your life insurance need and work with a financial professional like myself. All right. And build wealth. All right. This is the build wealth combination. So money and time plus and minus the rate of return, minus inflation, minus taxes equal to wealth. So what do I mean by that is the money, you need to have time for your money to grow. And then you need to know what's the rate of return. So I'm going to just give you an example. All right. Rate of return, most of the time when we go to the bank is only giving us about 1% of our money, 1%. All right. So that means that it takes about 72 years, because that's the rule of 72. So 72 divided by 1 equals what? 72. So 72 years for your money to double. Then you got to put in inflation, which it grows at 3 to 4% every year. And then you want to talk about those taxes. And then that's when you're talking about wealth. So you want to get away from that so you can build your wealth. All right. And estate preserving. So you want to write a will to detail wishes regarding a legacy, and then have that access protection, things of that nature. So you can have, you can understand about, once you give your money, once you giving your family something to have, all right, they don't have to worry about taxes because you did the estate planning for them. So they don't have to worry about, taxes once you pass away and all those different things as well. So last but not least, I want us to start working together, because this is the only way we're going to be building wealth. All right. This is how we're going to do it. We have to work to others. All right. We got to work with others. All right. We got to network. We got to start building each other up. All right. We can't just say this is the only way. No, we got to get out of that mindset. As I just said, our ancestors went through way more hell than we go through now. And they pretty much dominated. They dominated and had their own, all right, businesses, cities, and everything else. All right. With the limited resources that they had. Now we have network. Now we have money. Now we have everything that in our disposal. All right. So we need to do that. We need to spread this knowledge that we have. All right, we need to spread this as much and as many people that we need to, and then have some sit downs talking to people. So hey, man, let me support you in this way, in this fashion, in this. Hey, what about this? Or what about this idea? So we can start getting back to that knowledge. All right, and open and supporting businesses. All right, if you are business owners, please be professional. All right, understand and listen to some of those customer reviews and everything else. Build your website up. All right, look at your reviews and be like, okay, this is what I maybe need to be doing better. Okay, so it's a hand in hand combat. You want to be a business owner, you gotta act like one, be accordingly. Stay up on the up and up. All right, understanding your customers, understanding more new ideas, how to engage with your customers and everything else like that. All right. And now learn and preserve our history. We have so much history that we need to be preserving. All right. Like our big mama houses and all that, that's in the family. We need to be preserving those houses so we can keep it going, and then have somebody coming in that's in our family or what have you. Guess what? They have something. Once they're in college, they go to college, or if they're not in college, they at a low point in their life or something, they could be living in big mama house until they get back on their feet. All right. So this is something that we need to be preserving our history, and some of these history, we need our history to be taught and be somewhere, everywhere, in any city, every state. So hey, okay, this was a Freeman city right here, and this town right here. This is what happened at this particular time, and everything else. All right, we got to expand our resources to keep creating. All right, we have so many resources that we have, and we keep on building. Especially with this pandemic, this has really helped us out, so we can keep on creating. We got to keep on creating. All right, our creative minds that we can keep on going. All right, musically. Innovatively, anything else that we can really get ourselves out of this box that we in, or we put ourselves in. All right. And last but not least, you got to believe in yourself, believe in who you are, believe and know who you are, and understand that, hey, you can make a better day. All right. You can make it just by one step at a time. Some of these little tips that I gave you. All right. Hey, let me get in contact with him. Hey, you know what? I know this person that, elevates you, or whatever the case may be. So I want you to really start believing in yourself. All right. And last but not least, don't worry about the opposition. Do not worry about how many causes and what's going on and what happened, what the opposition is doing to deteriorate us or distract us from our greatness. No, we ain't got to worry about that. We so worried about, all right, you want to stop us going left? Okay, I'm going to go right. All right, you want to stop us going right? I'm going to go middle. So I'm going to have to we're going to figure this out together, because this is how we're going to do it. All right, this is how we wanted to do it. This is what our ancestors wanted. And this is how we can actually build each other up from the ground up. So that's pretty much it. That's all I got for y'all for today. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed it.
Let me stop the share. All right. Thank you, Daryl. So I have a couple of questions. So what role does real estate play in wealth creation and building wealth creation? Is that something we should be looking into?
Yes. Everything that happens to do with building and having preserved some, like I was saying, preserving that history, we definitely need our real estate agents and people that's in that area to really, giving us land to cultivate, so we can actually build farms or whatever the case may be that we wanted. And like I was stating, having that big mama house, that, hey, we can have that so we can preserve that, have some of that history that we have had. I think we needed, one thing I really noticed that back in the day, they didn't really write down anything. So it's really hard to even talk about the Reconstruction era, because, we don't even know for certain how many cities they were. So we need to start doing what we can do is like, writing, journaling, keeping up, like I was saying, keeping up with preservation with that history that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that in many many neighborhoods we talk about gentrification. And when gentrification happens, it happens in Black and brown communities, in real estate that we may have owned and didn't take care of, like Big Mama's house in Harlem, or Big Mama's house in Brooklyn. Some of the places, Big Mama's house in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, right? Even Big Mama's house down Grant Park in Atlanta, right? These are all areas in DC, all areas that's happening now here in Baltimore, where we did own property, right? And for whatever reason, we lost it. And then we find that these neighborhoods that used to be ours are now multi-million dollar neighborhoods, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
own anything in them anymore. Um, so that about Big Mama's house is real. I'm gonna tell you, I had, hey, now their name escapes me. They sing that song. All right,
Outcast.
all right, all right. Outcast. Yes. Okay. So Outcast and the whole clique of them, the Dungeon family,
Yeah.
right? So they used to record in a house they called the Dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in an area in Atlanta. I don't want to call it wrong. I think it's in DeKalb County. It might have been in the Grant Park area, but that house that they were recording in was somebody's Big Mama's house, right? And it was a house that they all, the acoustics they loved in that. It was a dirt bottom basement. And they did a lot of big hits were made in that basement. Well, you're talking about the 90s and early 2000s. For some reason, this is the 90s. Nobody thought that was a house that they were supposed to keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a former coworker, colleague of mine, a white woman and her husband. They were real estate investors. They are millionaires now, okay? And she got that house. She got that house in 2003. Okay, so they had money to get that house, to keep that house by that time. I don't know whose grandmama's house it was. It wasn't Big Boy's or Andre's, but it was one of them in that Dungeon family. Long story short, she got that house, and she did her renovation, and that house was worth probably 4 or 5 times what she paid for it. And just we have many, many stories of that, of us losing real estate. And she was saying it herself when she got it. Like, I can't believe not one of them thought that they should get this house. And at the time, it was when, hey, I was out. Okay. So it's just to say, like, things that we don't think are important. And I remember, and I don't know the exact quote, but Jay-Z had said something like, he didn't think about investing in
Marcy Project.
Yeah. Bed-Stuy, right? Dumbo, these areas that, now he done bought the nets there. Most people can't rent an apartment in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And he had opportunity long time ago to invest in his home and did not, right? But he now knows the value of and knows that he missed out on an opportunity. And so real estate and preserving our neighborhoods is very important. And I think it adds to that. Developing, creating wealth, or something that we might not believe is the key to wealth. Big Mama's house could very well be the key to that. And the last story I'll say about that is I lived in a brownstone, walking distance to Marcy Projects in 2001, right after 9/11. And I lived there until I moved to Georgia. And the family that lived there were the first Black family in that neighborhood. And this is Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Okay. So when they bought, it was all white, and they dealt with a lot of racism and whatnot. They bought the home in 1952, and they still owned it. The husband and wife, the husband had passed, but the wife had owned it, Miss Smith. And she always said, "You gonna buy my house for me?" Now she had plenty grandchildren, plenty great grands, plenty children. But what they wanted was they all moved to Jersey and the suburbs of Long Island and that kind of thing. And some of them moved to Georgia. And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy the house." And I actually left, and I did not buy the home. I left because my dad was ill, moved to Georgia, and she sold the house for $600,000. Seemed like a lot, right? Because they bought the house for I think $16,000. Today that house is worth almost $5 million. So that's our story. We lose our wealth, and that's just lack of knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is very important for us to document and to share the stories, and when we learn something, to share that information. That neighborhood that I rented in, and I was cursing myself because I was paying almost $1,000 to live in that neighborhood when it wasn't gentrified. I can't afford to live there now today. A 1-bedroom apartment, is crazy, right near the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, I couldn't afford to live there. She owned property there, you know, and thought she was getting a bargain at 600,000, getting at 600,000, thought she was making out like a bandit, and she was not.
Right.
So it's like we just don't know. So I'm glad that you are educating people about finances. I'm really glad to see that you are doing that because we need more of that. Let me ask you another question. So, what role? Okay, not what role, but so you're a young guy. Were you always consider? Did you always think about your finances? Was this something that you recently started, or what was like a turning point?
Man, so I think the turning point for me was once I realized that I was, I wanted to be a husband, and I
Mhm.
wanted to, you know, um, I knew I wanted to be a husband, so I was like, okay, I got to be a provider. Not in just one way, but finances is, quote unquote the way for men. But I realized that being a provider is not just generally speaking
Mhm.
financially, but I realized, okay, I need to start planning things for myself. So it started hitting me. I always had these ideas. I wanted to be this and then the third, but I was kind of scared. I had some. That's why I know from experience, like, all right, I understand that you kind of get scared when you're talking about financial education, or you like, man, this is overbearing, because you may be in a situation like, man, I can't afford that. So I understand cold-heartedly, but I knew that I wanted to be a husband, and I knew I wanted to be a provider for my family. So I knew that, I needed to tighten up and understand that, hey, this is what I need to be doing, and actually help educating other people about the pitfalls that I went through. Because, like I stated before, if we don't tell our stories, then who will? And then
Mhm.
one thing that, that recognized me is that nobody don't teach us about this. Nobody don't come to the schools or anything like that. Even our parents don't even teach us about, hey, these are some benefits that you may be looking for. Hey, this is what a 401k is. Hey, this is what the banks do for your money. All right, do you know exactly what this is and all that? So nobody don't teach us that. Nobody don't come down and talk to you like that and really break it down to you. So that's why I say, hey, for me, I say I'm gonna break it down to you so you know the ins and outs and just the basics. So you don't want to get overwhelmed, or you don't want to feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. No, you can do this.
So, okay, give me two things that somebody can do right now that's easy. So, someone who says like, I wasn't paying no money, I wasn't paying attention to my money. I make $75,000 a year. I got a little student loan debt, but not anything crazy. Maybe I pay $200 a month for student loans, and I got credit card debt. I pay another 200. I don't own a home. I like the nice things in life. I want to travel. I want to do things, right? Um, what are the first things? What are two things that a person should do? So I'm not underwater, but I'm not really thinking about the future right now. What are two things you would say someone could do?
First, make a budget. Make a monthly budget. It's not hard. I wouldn't, don't overthink it. Just put down your expenses, and then just put down how much you make. So if you say you're making 75,000, that's roughly what, about 4 or 5 thousand a month, somewhere up in there. So what, 4 times 12, 48, so six. So about 6,000 a month. So you're making about
Mm-hmm.
6,000 a month. So if you're making $6,000 a month, okay, that's cool. Well, all right, you bringing in $6,000 a month. So how much is your monthly expenses? So how much is your car note, insurance and all that? Okay, so now you see how much you got left over out of that 6,000. Now you can see, okay, so I got a little money. I can go splurge a little bit, from here and there. Or you could probably pick out some times that, hey, all right, so it's 12 months in a year. Maybe I want to go vacate. So let me vacate on the, 2 times a year. All right. Let me just put 2 times a year and let me see exactly where I want to go, what's in my budget. All right. If I want to go out of the country, maybe one. But if I want to stay in the country and something like that for Christmas or something, all right, let me look at the prices. Let me look at some bargaining prices. So, I mean, it's 2021, so we have a lot of bargaining apps that we can be using. So, say if you like to fly, hey, let me use this Hopper app, all right, to see, what's the cheapest route. I mean, what's the cheapest flight that's available right now for that time period that I want to travel, all right. And then let me go back. Okay, so is this in my budget? All right, I make 6,000 a year. Okay, is this in my budget? Cool. All right, is it just me, or is it going to be somebody else? Do I have a family or whatnot? So you just kind of break it down like that. And don't, as I said, as I said it before, it just get you an FNA, a financial needs analysis. All right, you have a professional like myself do it for you. Like I said, don't be like, I can't do this. That's why I said ask for help. Do not let your ego get the best of you. I know your ego could be like, I ain't finna listen to nobody. Nah, ask for help. And then ask somebody, about it. That's a professional. They can give you a book to read or something like that. But okay, so this is something that I can do for myself.
All right, I love it. I love it. All right, guys. So we've been speaking for almost 45 minutes. I'm gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna ask you, Daryl. So I'm not gonna ask you a marginalized question because we talked about that before your first time here, um, specifically about wealth and wealth creation and finances. If you could go back in time to a younger Daryl when he wasn't thinking about being a provider and a husband and maybe a dad. I didn't hear that, but maybe that's in there too. I'm not pushing anything. Wait a little while on that too. If that's in the plan, wait a little while. Enjoy this period. But before any of those thoughts were in your mind, if you could go back to that Daryl and tell him something related to building wealth and finances, what would you go tell Daryl right now if you could?
I would definitely teach myself about the rule of 72. I would definitely teach myself about just getting into the financial system. I'll be reading books. I'd have probably been reading books about, I would have probably read the book Money, Wealth, and Life Insurance when I was younger. I would have gave myself some advice about books to read and just understanding how to invest my money properly and then have a life insurance policy when I was younger.
All right. Now, could you tell us the rule of 72 again, please?
So the rule of 72 is basically a mathematical. It's very simple mathematical, just to see how the rate of return works. So if you're looking at the credit card debt or if you're looking at something positive, you want to look at the rate of return. So they say it's 7%. You just do 75 divided by 7. Then you will see how long it takes.
All right. For you to get that return.
Yeah.
Or for you to pay that bill if you do
it
on something.
If it's, like I said, if it's negative or if it's positive. So it all depends. But, if it's debt, you want to look at it and see how long it would take or how much they pretty much going to be adding on if you late on that payment or something like that. So it's not hard. And like I said, I'm here to help. If y'all need me, I have a link tree that you can just,
yes. And anyone watching, whether live or on the replay, Daryl's LinkedIn contact information is on the posting for this wherever you see it, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. I didn't put your link tree in there, but you can contact him on LinkedIn and get his link tree. So my final question is, if we have one, you talked about a lot and gave us a lot of information. If a viewer had one takeaway, what do you want them to walk away with this afternoon, this evening?
Get you a financial checkup.
All right, I'll take that. So guys, you need to go get you a financial checkup. I know I need another one, and I'm waiting because I just started something different with my life. And so my inputs are not going to be what they were 3 years ago when I was at the top of my income earning years, actually 2 years ago, but the last one I had was 3 years ago. So, I don't work a traditional W-2 anymore. So things are a little different. Yeah, so I'm not so gung-ho about going to get one. I need another one because everything has changed, right? What I bring in changed. My expenses have changed. My whole life has changed. And it's time to do it. I know it's time to do it. But I'm like, it's primarily those inputs. I'm like, the inputs are not consistent and they don't look like they used to look. So I don't know how much planning I could do with them. But yes, I will be getting one before the end of the second quarter. So we just started the second quarter 4 days ago. Before the end of the second quarter of the year, 2021, I will get one. Because I need one. All right, guys. This was Daryl Arnold. I love this chat. He's going to come back again for our Professionals of Excellence series, which starts later this month. So I don't know what day he's going to try to come back, but he'll be back in. And again, if you saw something here that piqued your interest, you think that this is information that helped you, just share it. Just go ahead and hit share and share. You can share it on your own profile, or you can actually send the link to someone so that they can learn more about building wealth. And while this is geared toward the Black community, anyone can take value from this presentation. I just want to thank you again, Daryl, for joining us. And to anyone watching on the replay, let us know you watched it on the replay. Let us know what you think. And thank you for bearing with us. We had a little bit of sound issues, but it all worked out. All right, then. I'm going to say thank you all for joining. God bless you, and good night or good evening. Bye-bye.